So we'll start in about a minute.
Okay.
I think Brett's on. We have Riverside Muse first.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Barb, am I in there?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Although your Galaxy tab A,
Oh, okay.
but we have you listed as a panelist.
I was looking for my name there and I guess I see Galaxy tab. Oh, me, I see. All right. It's all in reading the details.
That's it.
I think someone still has an echo problem. Not right now, but just yeah. I guess Phil or Barbara just kind of watch that.
Yeah, I've been hitting the mute button there. Not sure there's a way to mute everyone at the same time.
Yeah, be careful. Phil has some power here. I think if you would,
Yeah.
Phil, make Adrian Smith a panelist.
MK 40 or MK 74. Can you be sure to keep yourself on mute? There's a lot of echoing coming from your phone at times.
Okay, I think we will start. So I'd like to welcome everyone to our February 25th Development Activities Meeting. And if this is your first time attending, I'm going to ask that you at some point visit our website and go to About Us, and under News and Information, you'll find information about Southside Community Council becoming a registered community organization. And one aspect of our work as an RCO is that development that meets certain criteria need to come before the community for what is called a development activities meeting. And that's what we are participating in right now. We have two city planners with us. You've heard from Philip Wu. He is our host, and he will shortly explain how to participate in this meeting, whether you're a panelist or if you are an attendee. Anthony is documenting the meeting in order to generate a report that will eventually be on the development activities meeting portion of the city planning website. And at times he will interject to provide some clarification, either to something that I may say, or answer a question, or asking a question to the participant, to the developers. And we have 3 projects. Oh, just before I forget, this is also being recorded, and we place that on the YouTube, our Southside Community Council YouTube page. We have 3 projects today: Riverside Mews, 1321, 1327 East Carson Street, and also 2009 East Carson Street. And after each of the presentations, we will provide information if you want further comment after this meeting, and where you can go to view the city meetings that the presentations will be for. So I'd like to turn this over to Phil so that he can explain how we all can participate in this meeting.
All right, thank you, Barbara. Good evening, everyone. I'm Philip Wu with the Department of City Planning. And as Barbara mentioned, I'll be in the background here moderating tonight's development activities meeting on behalf of the Southside Community Council. I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items on this slide related to participating in tonight's Zoom meeting. First, if folks run into any technical issues, please tap the Q&A button, and I'll try to help you out there. If you would like to ask questions to our presenters tonight, please use the chat feature to type in your question, or you can tap the raise hand button if you would like to speak your question out loud. We'll get to all your questions after each of tonight's 3 presentations in a chronological order. And also, if you're calling in by phone and would like to ask a question, I will announce the last 4 digits of your phone number, and we'll unmute you when it's your turn. For our presenters tonight, we ask that you be mindful of any attendees who may be on their phones or who may not be able to see the slides, and to try to best describe what's on each of the slides that you're presenting. And as Barbara mentioned, this meeting is being recorded so that anyone who wants to view it later can do so. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brett Miller, and he will be discussing the Riverside Muse Phase 3 plan. Brett, would you like to share a screen?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I will thank you everybody for the time to hear about our project. It's more of a completion of a project than something new that we're introducing. As many of you are, I'm sure, familiar with the Riverside Muse project. This is the 3rd of 3 phases, finally. And the existing phases have been along Merriman Way, some along 18th and 19th Street, and this 3rd phase is between the existing units and the tracks, so on 18th Street. So here is the plan. Let me move this. Okay. So this phase had at some point been originally designed for 15 units. We're currently looking at it as 6 units on 18th Street, the 6 or the potential for 9 backing onto the Teachers Union parking lot there in the addition to the Muse, and the possibility of 2 additional units on the end of the site nearest the tracks. We've been working with the URA, discussing the possibility of pursuing these smaller units that you'll see in the back by the Teachers Union as a way to keep the price points lower on some smaller units back there. The parking over here is a possible parking. Something that's changed since the origin of this project is that, of course, this is now in the Riv zone, which has a 1-to-1 parking maximum. So that's something that we'll have to go through to get a variance so that we can provide the 2 integral garage spots for the units that are on 18th Street, and the possibility for 2 as well on the units by the Teachers Union at the end of the site. So the design will all be commensurate with how it has looked throughout the life of the plan. But just to refamiliarize, I'm going to show you what the facades will look like on the 2 groups of buildings that are on 18th Street. So this is the street-facing view of the 3 buildings that are closest to the existing construction. Exactly like it had been before. And here are the other 3 further down 18th Street towards the river. And with that, I'll open it up to comments or some questions.
I have a question. We're looking at along 18th Street, aren't there, are those 6 in the front there on 18th that face 18th Street? Are they the existing ones?
Those ones are not existing yet. So, as you're going down 18th toward the river, there's what looks like, half of a driveway. This is the other side. This represents the other half of that driveway to the existing units. And then there's 2 groups of 3.
So this is that big empty lot.
This is on the empty lot. That's right. Mhm.
Okay, okay. And is this any part of the Mews that are further up 18th Street?
Yeah, it'll be connected. So I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can you see my mouse?
Yep, yep.
Okay, so this is a connection to the existing unit. So on the other side of right here, so like, something like right here is the existing, the house that is the furthest down 18th Street right now. And right here is where you come in to go to that part of the Mews. And then, now you'll be able to come in here and go this way as well. And then further down, there's another curb cut to come in here to access these units over here.
Okay, so that one, that where your arrow was first, that's the driveway that'll access the existing units.
This is the driveway that, the other, this part of the road right here already exists on this side. And that's how they currently access the units over here.
And all these new units are going to look very similar to the ones that are already there.
Yep, exactly the same, just like this. In fact, this unit here is a mirror to the existing one on the other side of the driveway.
Okay.
Brett, this is Anthony, the neighborhood planner.
Yes.
You mentioned that you're going to be asking for parking variances. We know that you're going to the planning commission for the project development plan, and then being, the RIV standards being within 200 feet of the river. But the parking variance, is that a ZBA request also?
Well, they brought it up as a potential of something that we may have to apply for in our pre-application meeting. Specifically because of the RIV, that there's a 1-to-1 parking ratio maximum under the RIV.
Okay, so that I guess I was wondering, is that addressed in the planning commission discussion then?
Yeah, that's
Okay, yeah, as long as you're mentioning it and explaining it here, that's fine. Thanks for the
Hey, Brett,
clarification.
this is Tom McDonald. I'm actually a real estate broker, so I'm always looking at it from that perspective. Can you talk to us a little bit about the price point? And I guess specifically, I'm interested in, you mentioned the possibility of some smaller units to make the units more affordable.
Sure. Yeah. So, the units that are going to be on 18th Street here are going to be similar sizes and floor plans to the rest of the units in the development that we've done so far.
Right.
And so those price points will be commensurate with those units. Now back here, we've taken a hard look at doing 16-foot wide units. So there'll be a smaller footprint. And for those, we are trying to keep the price points for the base units under the $500,000 threshold.
Okay.
That is, absorption, as we know, has been up and down, but generally slow over the years for the larger and more expensive units. And so with that consideration, we're trying to make the price points.
And do you have an idea? You said 16 feet wide. Do you have an idea of what the square footage on the smaller are going to be approximately?
I don't exactly.
Okay.
I don't want to say something out of turn. So I have an idea, but
sure, fair
they're
enough.
smaller. I mean, they'll be less than 2,000 square feet.
Okay. And then my last question for you is, I assume that you guys will be applying for a tax abatement, yes?
I can't say. If it's available, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Matt Brungo here. I just have a couple of questions. really about the variances and kind of where you are right now. When I look at this, do you know how big are the lots for the smaller back 9 units? Are those 1,200 square feet or smaller? And then the open parking lot in the that's going to be like the northeast corner. Does that comply with the RIV standards for open lots? The RIV, I can't remember if they allowed any open lots facing the water. So
Yeah,
just what
I mean-
variance, do you know your total variance package?
No, at this point, we've done the pre-development or the pre-application meeting. We still don't have the final disposition agreement settled with the URA, and they wanted us to go through this part of the process first before we go back there. So, you know, we have had to sort of draw a line somewhere on how far along we're going to go down this rabbit hole before we, you know, essentially have formal site control. So at this point, we have an idea from the pre-application meeting of most of the variances that we're likely to encounter down the pathway. You know, this plan that was devised by our site civil engineer, we believe largely complies with the RIV standards. The 2 units on the end are actually within the 125-foot riparian buffer, but based on how they calculate some credits, I think that we'll be okay to include those 2 units on the site as well. These two. Right now, the 125-foot buffer cuts right across the edge of the units here, and based on having native species plants alone, that's 5 feet, and there's on-site stormwater is another 5 feet, I think, or something like that. And so we feel confident that we'll be able to include these on the plan as well.
A follow-up to what you were discussing there is, will the stormwater be directly discharged? Like essentially it'll run directly into the river rather than going back into the sanitary sewer. And I don't think you answered, did you know if these new lots, if they're going to be under 1,200 feet?
I don't, but you know, the way that this is designed, you're not looking at, I mean, there are single family residences, but this Muse is part of the HOA. And I think that, you know, as a planned development, my understanding is it's a little different requirements than if it was, you know, single family detached residential.
Right, as a plan rather than a single unit.
Right.
Do you know about the stormwater? I mean, I imagine you have the infrastructure there that you're going to put the stormwater directly out and not into the sanitary sewer.
I believe that's the plan. I mean, most of it, the plan is that it all be captured on site. And yeah, you know, the greenest way is the way of Ernie Soda, our fearless leader. And so that's always the plan with Ernie.
We have a question from Kevin Morrison. Is the plan to also build the mini units on the teacher's end?
On the what?
Question said teacher's end. I'm not sure if that was a typo or not.
It's next to, near the,
So this,
the building that houses the teacher union.
right. So right here where my mouse is this area where most of the units are backs onto the parking lot, and then over here is where the building is. So.
When we look at this closely, you look at the where you proposed the 9 units. The printing that's on there indicates like it would be 6 units instead of 9.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And we may, you know, depending on how absorption looks and how the market is, we may still pursue 6 instead of 9. But, you know, our intent is to possibly market them as those smaller units.
Okay. You have any idea how close you are to the tracks down here on the Riverside?
We're very close. I mean, right. So this the end of this lot line is right onto the property of the tracks. So, you know, the tracks.
You
are
don't know
something
how far that is in feet.
No, I mean, we when we designed this, we tried to keep it a similar distance to how it is at South Shore Place across 18th Street. But I don't have off the top of my head the feet. I could try to pull up some plans and maybe answer it later in the chat. From the
I
civil
only
engineer.
asked that because of the issues, Don, farther along the bike trail when at the terminal building where they won't allow a trail to go along the tracks because they say the path would be too close to the tracks. And they make you go all the ways around the terminal building, and why
Okay.
you can get away with it here, but not down there.
Yeah, I mean, this, you can see there's this landscaping buffer that we have planned along here, but that's something to consider as well, that we hadn't, that's a good point. That's something I hadn't thought about.
Well, I can just speak here to what I know about it is that their property line, Mike, is where the green meets the white on the left. So I believe the railroad right of way there is about 50 feet wide. They only own up to where the green and the buffer starts. So, and they're probably within their easement right to be constructing within, it looks like 10 feet or so of it. There in the bottom left-hand optional squares units. And what was the situation with those again, Brett? Could you just summarize that for me?
These two units on the end?
Yes.
Do you mean the situation with regard to the Riv, or?
Well, what are they? Two of the units similar to the front?
So they will be similar to the units that are here on the front of 18th Street.
Okay.
We, as a development team, have had concerns about the marketability of these units because of the proximity to the tracks. They are very close. The URA would like us to pursue marketing these units, and but in the event that they are unmarketable and we can't find buyers for them, then this will become a green space to be maintained by the HOA that can be used for walking animals around and things like that, or picnic and so on.
Could we ask that if you don't choose to build those two buildings, that instead of leaving the parking lot as shown here above it, that you just put in a simple line of parking from the top of the page to the bottom and make a longer linear park up against a rail with more of a berm to it or something, and have more of a linear instead of this awkward parking with open space next to it. You know what I mean?
That's a great idea. We have a plan that looks like that. That's sort of the backup.
Okay.
And also, we are not, there's a possibility of parking here, but it's the requirement for us to pursue parking. The HOA has to want it and want to maintain it. So that has to be determined. And if this is not parking, this will also be green space that can be used.
Brett, I have a question on the parking. Why is there so much parking, or do the units not have parking in them, or is that
the units? Yeah, so the units have parking. These smaller units are not wide enough to have side-by-side garages, and so as we pursue the smaller units, they're going to be one car with an option for tandem. And something over the years that we've heard from the HOA and the residents at Riverside is that they are always looking for extra off-street parking and guest parking, because they don't allow parking in the Muse area, because you can't even leave your car here because it would block others from getting in and out of their garages, since the garages are not street facing here. They're accessed all from behind, which is nice. I mean, the Muse is definitely an asset to that community, and it makes it, not having cars makes it nice for people to sit out on their decks and to walk through and things like that. And it's all connected all the way from this end of the all the way over to 19th Street. The Muse runs. So it's an option to have extra parking. It could be assigned, it could be guest. But again, the HOA, if that's something that they want for the long term, it's something that we're open to pursuing with them.
What is the percentage of occupancy in all of the existing Mews?
It's 100%. They're all sold
100%.
and occupied. Yep.
Okay.
Will you be utilizing the Belgian block again as part of the drive entrance or an accent in the site development?
We have Belgian block. I think in keeping with the way it was, it's something that we could do there again as well, along with the aggregate to keep the consistency. So that's something that we're open to.
I would like to point out that I know lots of people have mentioned it to me, and I've enjoyed it as well. When you walk by, if you're walking along 18th Street and you're coming down and a car is coming out of this drive entrance in the middle there, it actually really helps with the Belgian block that you can hear the car wheels and the vehicle approaching a lot more than if you can on asphalt or concrete. And it's just a nice pedestrian thing. Like if that entrance piece was just Belgian block to help that, you know what I mean? It makes the neighborhood a lot more, pedestrian friendly and just sort of sensory aware, I guess, especially with a lot of cars these days, sneaking up. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's our intent. Those Belgian block we found during excavation of the site, and that's why the pile of them was there for as long as it was.
Yeah.
So, it's the HOA is, up and down, lukewarm about the Belgian block because of maintenance, but it's something that we think is nice. And I agree with you. I think it's a nice accent there for multiple reasons.
Yeah, great.
So
We have
there,
a follow-up question from Kevin Morrison. Will there be fencing along the landscaping buffer so that there's no public access?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Just like there is on the public buffer from where? You mean from the teacher's lot behind, there will be fencing like there is on the existing. As to the, you mean as to over here? I don't know. We hadn't had it before.
On 18th Street.
On 18th Street, like right here.
Yeah.
I thought he meant along the railroad.
I don't know if we will along the railroad. So the way this is, you can't tell, but this is like the plan to be a little bit like a berm. So it's a little bit built up to give some
Acoustic
buffer. Yeah, acoustic buffer from the tracks.
Yeah.
So I don't think we would require it there, but I actually don't recall if there's no fencing notated here, but
I think you were just planted as a
yeah, I think it's just planted, right?
Which I think between that and I believe the site is also dropping off a little there. It might be like a hillside more than anything right there along the sidewalk, but
yeah, and
you'd have to look into it to see.
and the public is going to be able to access this through this street, but the site doesn't get used as a throughway because of a couple of reasons. There's a gate in the middle that only the residents have a key to, and that's one of the strategies to not have, to maintain some level of privacy. And then there's a gate at the end on 19th Street as well with the same key.
Right.
Bill, can you unmute Kevin? He may be able to ask.
Yeah, he's unmuted.
Okay.
You're talking, if you'd like.
Kevin, if you may want to provide clarification or add to your questions or comments.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I think I understand, first of all, that berm against the rail track is a good noise damping technique. And I also understand that anybody can walk into Riverside Mews off 18th Street through the vehicle entrances. But I think that most residents are going to want not to see people wandering off 18th Street through the landscape portion near the rail tracks, because people will just be curious and will wander in. and I think there should be some kind of fence. It doesn't need to be a huge fence, just to show that you're not supposed to come walking over this particular piece of grass.
Okay, yeah, that's something to consider. Thank you.
You know, right now, up on your, beyond your parking, there's part of the building that's on the, right up in there, yeah, just a little further up, is a pathway between the teachers union building and a little utility building that I have myself already used, walk through there and cross the tracks. Probably not the smartest thing, but I've done it. And at the same time, that could very well, this could be another shortcut through, you know, from the
Okay.
trail across the tracks.
Yeah, I don't know if they couldn't get through here and then into the teachers union, because there will be a fence here that they couldn't go across. But I will mention that to the design team, and as we're finishing out the site plan, that's something to consider, a fence here.
Because, you know, Brett, I have heard that from some Muse residents who have expressed concern about people coming up South 19, or I think it's South 19th Street, and have often said that they come from apparently that section, and rather than coming up on South 18th Street. So
they come from behind here?
Yeah, I think it's what Mike's talking about, that there's a way that there's a way for them to access that space, so they're not walking on South 18th Street. And it's not no one besides Mike who actually is, you know, going through there to get to the Giant Eagle, or to get back onto into South Side. It seems, and you know, I'm not sure about last year, but the year before, there were, you know, the train jumpers that seemed to be coming up and using that section to come up to Carson Street. So it might be something to look at.
Yeah, we will. I mean, currently this has a fence all the way around that's locked, and so I'm not sure what we could do in addition. I mean, that's pretty defensive. I don't know what we could do in addition to that to stop the traffic, but I don't know, maybe they're getting in on the right of way here and just
Yeah, somebody's sharing, there is a cut in the fence along the river trail at South 19 that the city has not touched for 2 years, that people routinely use to get from the trail to the Wharton Square property. So that may be something that Bob Charlton wants to address with the city.
Yeah, I'm happy to look into that.
Well, Barb, as I said earlier, not even talking about 19th Street, but there's a direct path through the Board of Education or the Teachers Union parking lot right next to the buildings, and right down a little path, and you're right on the tracks.
Okay.
You know, you don't even have to go to 19th Street.
Okay. So Brett, that may be something you want to look at.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
The rail jumpers, crusties, whatever you want to call them, in our assessment of where they're crossing, we did a little assessment for the city to talk about where we'd like extra fences added and stuff. This was not one of the areas, because across from it is the fenced in dog park area that starts and it goes all the way down to the Giant Eagle. And actually the road is just on the other side of that walks you down. Not a high instance rate of crossing there in the opinion of the people we talked to about it. Is more so from 18th down to 9th to get to the road ends at like 15th and 13th, where there's big breaks in the fences. So, but it
Mike,
is.
I'd have to disagree with you there, because there are at least 2 other paths there that I know I've crossed.
Yeah, no, there's paths. I'm just saying that where they come up from and encamp from, it's not typically in this area anymore because the dog park, it's more down by Birmingham Bridge and more down by 13th. So,
yeah, all right.
Okay.
Michael, train jump sometimes too.
Yeah, on the weekends, mostly around the holidays.
There was also a comment about the thinking that the Belgian block is, the person felt that the Belgian block is not wheelchair accessible. So
And that's correct. They're not individually, but I was talking about, and I think Brett understood that the drive aisle only, not the sidewalks and such in the area, which will be ADA compliant most likely. So.
and then it's written here, the people crossing at 19th and the gap between the fence for the dog park and the fence next to it are mostly local residents in his experience.
Mm.
One being Mike McKay. So, thank you for the clarification. So are there any other comments or questions, concerns that attendees would like Brett to know about?
The last thing I'd just like to ask is that if it becomes a park and parking, will that end of the property be given ownership to the HOA, or is Realty 180 or Soda Construction Development holding on to any of that as a separate parcel after the project is complete?
Definitely not holding on to it after the project is complete.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Peter,
Yeah,
One
Brett,
thing, I might have missed it, but did somebody ask about the prices for these places, the 16 footers and the full size ones?
We did address that earlier, but the price points for the full-size ones will be in the same range with the existing units that we sold over the last 10 plus years. And that, like in the last phase, I think they ranged, base prices were in the 5s and 6s. And then here on the smaller units, our plan is to keep those under 500,000 for the base price.
Okay.
We find that, not very many over $500,000 properties change hands in a single year. And so it makes absorption a challenge.
Peter,
yeah, Brett, is my microphone working? Yeah.
we can hear you.
So on the landscape buffer question, I see what you're doing next to the railroad tracks. Here, where I'm zooming in, I have a Google Earth image on my other screen that shows a landscape buffer between where you're showing the 6 or 9 new smaller units towards the top of the plan, and that sort of green space above that. And right beyond that, going upwards on the site plan, is the parking lot for the teachers' union, this big sea of asphalt. Is there any plan for a landscape buffer between these proposed units and the parking lot? I mean, what I'm seeing on Google Earth is there looks to be an existing landscape buffer there now, and I can't tell if it's on your side of the property line or theirs.
So what's there right now there's a row of hedges that we planted, I believe, as a screen. The way we did the other side of the Mews was there is a small planter area on the other side of the fence, I believe, and there's trees in that are planted in that. I think that's what our plan would be to do here. I actually don't remember if the trees are the HOA or the teacher unions, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I'm seeing big, beautiful trees.
Yeah, and I don't on this site. I know that we're pretty well squeezed in, especially with the new the Riv sidewalks. They're especially wide on 18th Street. It's really making it tight between the back part of the site, and so what I can say is we'll do our best there. I mean, we did have a fence to shield it on the other side as well, and I'm sure we'll have a fence here for those units, but I couldn't say if we're going to have the space for the trees. I imagine that we do, but I don't know off the top of my head. That's a good question.
Yeah, there's some faint sort of squiggly lines in that green? Maybe those are
Right.
hedges that you have now. I'm not sure. Anyway, okay.
I don't remember, but yeah.
Thanks.
We have a comment from Rick. If you live in the back unit, the drive is the only access.
Yeah, if you live in a back unit, you can access it from this driveway or this driveway. And then your garage faces the Muse. This, we call this the Muse. Your garage faces that. So you would come in here and enter your garage, or come in here and enter your garage. So there's two means of ingress and egress here.
Barbara, do we want to put up the slide about next steps?
Yeah, if there are no, I was doing a little bit of wait time. If there aren't any more questions, comments, we can move to the next slide. So if you're thinking about this later this evening, or, walking around that area and have any questions or comments, you can always email the Southside Community Council at info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org. When this goes before the Planning Commission, you can watch the meeting, and you also can email testimony to the Planning Commission. You can also send a letter, or if you attend, you can raise your hand as you did here. And you also can have an opportunity to speak. So there are 30 days in between this meeting and when the Planning Commission meeting can occur. So there are 30 days
What time are you eating, babe?
for additional
What
comments.
time is dinner?
And then Barbara, on top of that, there's also, it depends what the applicant, and Brett would know, it depends also on the agenda, how full it is, when those come up. So,
Mhm.
but to Barbara's point, it's going to be at least, the 30-day wait period.
Okay, so no other questions. Brett, thank you for your time and for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you
Barbara,
all for your.
we do have a comment, follow-up comment from Rick. It is not wheelchair accessible to a back unit. Brett, would you like to address that?
To evacuate, is that what he said?
To a back unit.
A back unit.
It's
Okay, well, we will address that. From a pedestrian mindset, it's that driveway is not accessible. Okay, I see what he's saying. This one is not Belgian block. So this one is aggregate. The other half of it already is poured as aggregate. So, but we'll make sure that there's an accessible path.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone for their comments and questions. So our next presentation is 1321, 1327 East Carson Street with, I believe, Nick Miller.
That's correct, yes.
Hello, Nick.
Hi everyone.
Nick.
So I'm Nick Miller from Next Architecture. I'm here with Claire Dines from Next Architecture and Rob Mullen, the owner.
Nick, you're welcome to share your screen.
Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we're here to talk about, like Barbara said, 1321 through 1327 East Carson Street. We're proposing an apartment renovation for the upper 2 floors of the 3-story building, and then a apartment entry, which we'll see in the following slides. This project does fall in the East Carson Street Historical District. So we have a slide that just includes all the guidelines that we've followed. These will be discussed in the next the next few slides. So the existing building, right now on the top 2 floors are vacant, and they've been vacant for at least since the 90s, early 90s. We don't know actually how long. The first floor currently has the vault, tap room and kitchen, and 3 of the 4 existing bays. And then the 4th bay currently is Glassworks. As part of this project, Glassworks leases up. This would be the new residential entry. And then we would be renovating the top 2 floors on the interior. And then the exterior work would include removing the existing windows that have outlived their life, and then putting in the exact aesthetic equivalent of a new window. The new windows would be full wood sashes, and they would be double glazed for the new energy code. One other thing, we would be touching up the paint on the wood lintels, and then the frames and the trim in the middle here. The same thing would apply to the 14th Street side. So there's 14 windows here. We'd be doing the same thing that we show on the front. The Glassworks. So currently the Glassworks storefront looks like this. I believe it was recently painted. As part of our scope, this paint will be removed and or painted over prior to the scope of our project. So when our project starts, it'll probably look more like this, like it probably used to look before this was painted on. So what our project scope would be to remove all the any of the I guess signage that's still on the windows. We would paint the door, and then we would install like a security access point, which we have pictures of on the next page, I think. So this is just for reference, because I think probably a lot of people have seen what this currently looks like, but I believe that's going to be painted relatively soon, and the other paint removed from the windows. Just some close-ups of the windows so you can understand the aesthetics. So on the East Carson side, there's a little more detail at the top. So we'd be replacing in kind. And then on the 14th Street side, they still have arch top, but they don't have the little key at the top. And then this is just the pedestal for the security system to get in. Obviously, if I'm going to go back a couple of pages, we don't really have space. You can't put it on the door. We don't want to put it on the storefront. So this pedestal would sit out in this area to access the building. One thing in the historical regulations is about screening mechanical equipment. This view is just showing. So here's the building. You can see the big roof here, L shape. The closest historical district is this corner, or sorry, the closest residential district is this corner. This view is from this corner. We will have some small, like residential type compressors on the roof, but they'll be over here or on this lower roof because the building steps. So they will not be visible from the residential district. Just a quick thing about the interior. There was originally 4 units on the front, and these units were 2 heights. So one unit was the 2nd and the 3rd floor. All the access to these units previously was from the rear. So each unit would have their own walk-up stair. As part of this renovation, like I said, we are taking over the Glassworks space to have that as the main entry now. And then we'll put a new corridor inside. So the next picture, so essentially what we're doing is we're going to reuse that concept of we're going to have 2-story units. So each unit has their own existing stair, which are in disrepair. They don't meet the current code. So we'll be replacing those stairs, but still keeping the double height unit. One other thing, as part of this renovation, we had to look at parking. So right now we have we were proposing 6 new units. When we do the parking calcs, we get to 4 parking spots and then 2 bike parking spots. The 2 bike parking spots will be inside the building, and they'll access through that Glassworks space, which will now be residential. And then the 4 other spots will be leased off-site in I believe it's the theater's parking.
So, yeah, so this is Rob Mullen. So we're in the process of securing those, and we've spoken to the owner of that lot, and we have a lease offer from them that we're working to finalize. And so obviously we'll have those final before we go for our approvals, but that's just as a status. We we have a lease offer that we're working on finalizing now, just to be clear.
Just real quick in the process, we have been to a pre-app with city planning. And then, after our discussions here, we intend on submitting our ZDR at some point in the next couple of weeks. Any questions?
We have a comment from Beth. I think someone is actually living in that old church.
Yeah, the church is a house, yeah, or is a residential. It might not be zoned as such. He's seeking it at least. So, but
there is
So is the Glassworks no longer open that you're taking that over, or?
The Glassworks lease expires as of 5/31 of this year. We've indicated and been working with them to let them know that we are going to be doing this plan, so they're fully briefed on what we're going to be doing. So the renovation process would commence after their lease expires.
it was 6 units you're putting in, Nick?
That's proposed, yes, yeah.
Okay, no additions, nothing, it's just you're using the shell as is?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know that it used to be a 4-story building and it had a fire?
So from the inside, I'm like, there's spots for stairs that go to an additional floor. So I figured it was for prep for a 4th floor.
Yeah, burned down. I think someone told me in the early 20s.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Because when you're in the building, there's things that don't make sense for a 3-story.
Yeah, there's a stair in the back that goes up to nothing. It goes to the underside of the roof, right?
Right.
In the back, there is a courtyard that stairs go down to, is one of the egress paths out of this. Are you reusing the courtyard as part of your egress plan? And how is that going to be shared with the restaurant, or who's going to have ownership and use over the back? Because there's some locked gates that have always been contentiously locked with, chain, and, there's just not a proper egress path there. But I think with the Glassworks and your stair at the other end, you might have enough now without it. Could you speak to how that's being utilized or shared amongst the units?
So we still have a door for, I guess, access. It's not really for tenant access. Well, our life safety egress will be through the front and not that rear door that you're talking about. Yeah. So, and right now, if there's any more specific questions, Rob might be able to answer them. Right now, the vault has outdoor dining back there.
Yeah, so the Vault Tap Room's lease gives them the right to utilize the courtyard over the life of their lease, which I believe has 10 years left to run on that. There is a pathway that was built around to preserve, ingress and egress path. So there's that's there and utilized, but 90% of that courtyard has been built out to create outdoor dining space for the purposes of the vault.
Okay. Back there is currently the trash and recycling area for the restaurants and the tenants that were in the building. Can we assume that you're going to be using that for the residential trash and recycling storage, and we won't be seeing any recycling trash cans on the street around the building?
Yeah, the lease, the vault's lease specifically says that any future renovation for residential gives them the right to use and share that area that you're referencing. So you are correct.
Okay, that's important. Just as a quality of life issue, we don't like to see the dumpsters and stuff on the sidewalks. We try to eliminate them when we can.
Yeah,
So,
and we, Mike, and we do have a trash room on the first floor to, store some if necessary.
great. And I was just going to ask you about that first floor. So Glassworks is a big storefront. It's got to be over 1,500 square feet. What are you guys going to do in that? Is there public space like workout rooms, amenities, or is it just kind of?
Mike, that's a great question. So I've engaged a consulting firm who specializes in many spaces designed around the student market, and we're in the design phase of what we're going to put there. But what we are going to put there is going to be amenity space, most likely in line with what you're speaking about. It could be study spaces, or it could be workout spaces. We haven't determined that, but it will definitively be amenity spaces.
Okay.
There, Mike, quite a bit of that space will be eaten up by a egress stair also.
By what? Sorry?
An egress stair.
Oh, okay, great.
A new one. Yeah.
No elevator though. You're not popping one up, are you?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my question too. What the front door of these residential units would look like on East Carson Street. So, it's kind of this Glassworks storefront now, but I mean, is the idea that, that was a good slide. That the windows would remain as is and the doors would remain as is, and you're just popping in that little pylon with access.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think besides removing all the sort of the signage here, obviously we might obviously approach a new sign where the Glassworks is, that says whatever this will be called. But beyond that, no, not. It's sort of going to remain as is.
Okay. Thank you.
Could you go back to that picture that showed the interior?
Yeah.
It's a tinder box.
What's that hole in the wall?
So there was never a corridor in here because all the units were accessed separately. So I believe there was like a light well that shot down through the building, but there was no access between the units. So at some point, somebody put access between the units by just blowing holes in the brick. Yeah.
I know who did that, if you ever want.
I think I need to talk to you separately, Mike, about some of these things.
Yeah, there's a gentleman, full disclosure, my brother-in-law rented the Glassworks. He was the owner, proprietor of Slacker in that storefront. He was one of the first tenants of that owner's building when he bought it. And there's a gentleman that lived upstairs free of rent for cleaning the building out and doing the work that you're benefiting from here, I guess you'd say. So yeah, he did all this stuff and left it in this mess. He was a recluse, let's just say. Yeah.
Understood.
I know that the flowers on the Glassworks is not part of this project, but when it's really important that you work with Bob Russ and the LRC or LRC to determine how to take that the paint and everything that's on there off, because Bob can speak to this, but I don't think painting it is what the community would want. It's better to be able to restore it as best possible to what it was before.
So part of the end of the Glassworks lease is that we're going to be working with them to get that process done. This was not allowed under the lease, nor was it zoned, or did they get approval to do. So we've been in a remediation process with them actively. And so that, and during our review with the pre-app meeting, that same recommendation was made, and we're following it to the T to make sure that the repair process that's part of them completing their lease is done exactly as you're indicating.
And you have Bob Russ and Jody Sherman is on. They're on the call here. You know, they're part of the local review committee, and as Bob will tell you, their consulting to you is free. So please take advantage of it.
We intend to. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple questions from Rebecca. Where and how will garbage collection take place? Dumpsters, and where will they be located? Second question, how many bedrooms per unit and what will the price point be?
I'll take the second part of that. So our anticipation is there's 6 units. The price, it's geared towards the student market, and we're looking at it on a sort of per bedroom price point. And so there's the per bedroom price ranges we expect to range between $850 to $1,000 unfurnished, and with a probably approximately $150 to $200 charge if they would like to have the units furnished. So that's our expected price points as at this point of our planning. And there's a trash room, as Nick mentioned, on the first floor that will gather the trash for the building and the bins. And then, as we indicated earlier, there's existing trash off street that is behind the door on the side street, and we'll be availing ourselves of that as our storage to prevent there being any kind of dumpsters or anything visible to the community.
So how many bedrooms will be in each apartment?
The original 4 on the front, 3 of them will be 3 bedrooms, and then there's a 3 bedroom on the side street, and then 2 2 bedrooms. So 4 3 bedrooms and 2 2 bedrooms.
Question from Quaylen. Will renters have to walk 2 blocks or 1 block to enter at the rear of the building?
I guess I'll answer this. They would be entering the front of East Carson. So they would have to walk, I guess, this full block here to Bigham. And then depending on where those leases happen, it could be another half block either way.
Would you repeat again on when you said how many bedrooms were going to be in each apartment?
Certainly. There's 4 bedrooms. There's 4 units going across Carson Street. Three of those are 3 bedrooms, and 1 is a 2 bedroom. And then there's a 3 bedroom on the side street, and then in the sort of middle of the building, there's another 2 bedroom. So there's 4 3 bedrooms and 2 2 bedrooms.
When we count all those beds, is that do you account for 1 car for each bed?
The code accounts for 1 car per dwelling, but then you can take reductions. So each apartment we would consider a dwelling.
This is Matt Brungo, and that was going to be my question. How do you guys fit with your on-site? I imagine you have locked bike storage for a 30% reduction. How many spots do you have, and does that meet your code requirements for your parking?
Yeah, so we require we have 6 units. We would need six parking spaces. With using the 30% bike parking reduction, we go down to, we use 2 bike spaces to get the 4 parking spaces. So right now our room is sized for more than 2 bike parking spaces, but we have enough for 2, if that makes sense.
And I'm sorry, do you have 4 or 5 spots in the city theater lot?
4.
So that's a 33% reduction. And I know I'm nitpicking there, but I mean, look, I'm all for doing more with less parking, especially on East Carson Street. But I just like, you're using the minimum with a reduction and then not hitting the mark. So if there's a way to get a 5th spot, then you wouldn't need any additional lift. I mean, from my perspective, I think developing the storefronts on East Carson Street is a good thing, and projects like this are necessary, and we have to be flexible with parking because it's East Carson Street. But I know that from a community standpoint, it's oftentimes the largest concern, parking and garbage. So It's just an observation. You know, I don't know what your arrangement is with City Theater and how flexible it is.
And what we're final, as I indicated, we finalize those, and I want to make sure that the tenants have the parking they demand. So our ultimate aspiration is to see to it that we can accommodate more parking than the minimum. You know, so that's part of the ongoing conversation, because I believe parking helps the rentability of the units as well. And so we're gonna work to try to have materially more access to that, but for the purposes of zoning, we're gonna make sure we've got a firm process to get the ones that we need to meet code.
Yeah, and I'll just note for reference, the code, when you're reducing, if the code allows you for parking spots to round down, so that's why we're at 33% and not 30, if that makes sense.
Technicality.
You know, I'm not sure if I'm clear on the price. So if it's 3 bedrooms, each student would be paying between $850 and $1,000 for.
That's correct. Yep.
An apartment would be, let's just say if they were $1,000, so that an apartment is rented at $3,000.
And the cost per bedroom would actually be less probably in a 3 bedroom, but your math is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yep. So I would think about the lower end of the range on the 3 bedroom.
Yep.
So under that math, you'd probably be closer to like $2,500, $2,600, somewhere in that range. But your math is correct.
Okay. Jackie, you have a question that I'm not sure if I would be sharing it correctly.
Yeah, sure. I can just ask.
Okay.
You mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, the windows on 18th Street would be replaced in kind. And they have I think the double arch detail that I saw there. Are you truly replacing that same detail in the windows?
We are replicating them 100% wood exactly as they are per our advice from our pre-app meeting. And so when we apply, we are going to be having we're doing a historical, replication of these. So yes, we will be, our aspiration and what we intend to do is to do exactly what you said, is to do these exactly as they are today.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, the only change is we're gonna do double pane instead of.
Yes, just for energy efficiency.
Barb, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to step in on that too. We had the same concern. So LRC, and I won't get into all the details, you can come to us and hopefully we can get into a little bit more of this, but I'll just hit the broad strokes. We saw this on Tuesday night and talked over it. So this building was restored or renovated in the late 80s, I believe, by Gerald Lee Roscoe Architects. So he has a lot of information about the window restoration at that time and other things, and that confirms that yes, it did have a 4th story that burned out and was lost at that time, and a number of other features on the facade were reconstructed from photos, and a lot of the windows were reconstructed and or replaced with single glazing, because that detail on that window that Jackie mentioned, that little triangular inset piece of glass, is a very distinctive feature of these windows, probably the only type of window like this in the district. And that may be really hard to duplicate with double glazing. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, sorry. I guess I should have been more clear. We do have at least one window quote, and they said that little piece would have to be single glazed, and that would be
no big energy loss. So that was a concern. And then whether or not you would consider doing interior kind of storm sash or interior energy panel in lieu of going double glazing. Just thinking that the thickness of double glazing would have to be so thin or tight to keep those profiles like they are, then maybe the energy savings or performance is not as great as you would hope out of going through the expense of double painting these windows. So that's consideration. And again, lots of unauthorized painting of masonry on this building, not just the glassworks, but all the pilasters, the brick pilasters between the storefronts were painted at some point without a C of A. So we'd like to see those restored in the gentlest means possible. And so your restoration program we'd like to talk a little bit about the details of that, whether chemically stripping it, obviously not sandblasting it, but doing something to clean those brick piers. And do you have a elevation of the side street?
I have this view.
Okay. Yeah, I think up near the corner, it's just a small thing. I think there's a leftover, I think it was a Shepherd Ferry paper mural plastered on the side that is now kind of faded away, and maybe it's time to have that stripped off. We've had a lot of discussion about murals and other types of things like this in the district, and I think that one has kind of lost its vibrancy. So those kinds of cleanups would help all this go down. And lastly, then your comment about rooftop units. Yeah, they'll have to be, I think, not just screened from the residences, but we often ask for and get kind of sightline studies or photographs from down the block with some, simulation or modeling of where those are placed. If you can get them on that lower back roof, ideal. But if they're up on the high roof, just to make sure we don't see them from a block or two down Carson Street each direction or further up the side streets, just to kind of consider the sight lines either through a drawing or photographs in some simulation.
Yeah,
that's about it for now. But yeah, get in touch with us. We'd like to set up an evening Zoom with you, just to go into more detail with this.
Okay, perfect.
Appreciate it.
Just one thing, we sort of, I guess, internally did those sightline sort of thinking through it. And since these units are so small, we'll center them. I don't think it'll be an issue, but yeah, we can provide something that sort of indicates that.
That's more for the HRC than LRC, and just the process of trying to keep all that stuff screened from the public right away.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks. And other than windows on this side street, any of that storefront or doors and things being detailed or discussed?
So I don't know, Rob, if you want to weigh in, but I think the discussion for this project has been specifically the Glassworks and then the second floor up.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. I don't think we have any issues there. I was just curious.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And as you move forward, just any drawings that would indicate stuff going on there.
Sure.
We don't have any scope of work to do anything on there.
Okay.
That's actually all covered under the lease to the vault. So it should be staying unchanged.
Okay. Thank you.
We had one final question from Beth. Is there a plan to increase bike parking, especially with students in the bike shop right around the corner?
Yeah, so like I said, we're required to. I'm going to say our bike parking room right now might be like 10 feet by 8 feet. So there is room in there for additional bikes. We don't have an exact number at this point, but there will be more than 2 for sure.
So are there any more questions or
I
comments?
do. Yeah, it's Quaylin.
Okay.
I have another question about parking. I know you're talking with City Theater, and so I'm going to assume that they're still going to be able to park there even when City Theater has one of its own events. But say so there's 3 people in a unit, are they still going to be able to be eligible for permit parking on an off-street?
That portion of Southside does not have permit parking.
Okay. All right.
And if they did, apartment structures like this are not qualified, I believe. And I don't know where the cutoff is in number of units, but I believe it's more than 3.
Thanks, Mike.
Anybody else know better than that? To code better than that?
No.
Okay.
That's something we should clarify, but in this case, that as I said, that portion of Southside does not have permit parking.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Oh, Beth has a comment. Let's see. So Beth Beach, she and her husband own Thick Bikes. That's just a block away. And she indicated that she would be willing to work with you on bike parking.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Nick, I'll send you her email address.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Beth. So as with the previous project, if there are any additional comments or questions that you can always email the council at southsidecommunitycouncil.org. This will be going to Historic Review Commission, and the date I don't believe has been determined yet, but when it does, you can view it online. You can participate in the virtual meeting. What you may want to do is to look at the Historic Review Commission's their page, and then look at the schedules, because that's the best way to determine whether or not it will be on the agenda. And I believe the meetings are the first Wednesday of each month.
Barbara, that is correct. And you actually had this other slide up for the sending comment for the.
Yes.
Oh, okay. You went backwards. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then also you'll be going to the zoning board, am I correct, for a special exception for parking? Is that correct?
Yes, we believe so, since we're parking on site, yes.
So, that will, so when that meeting occurs, there also, again, is opportunity for comment, either through the Southside Community Council or by attending the meeting or writing a letter in support or in opposition. So if there's ever any question as to what to do, how to do it, you can always contact us at the Southside Community Council. So thank you guys for your presentation.
Thanks
very much. Thank you for the time.
Okay, our final presentation tonight, 2009 East Carson Street.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Carey. I'm here along with members of the team of the applicant, which is Franklin Bioscience Southwest LLC. We do business as Beyond Hello, which is a state licensed medical marijuana dispensary company. We have a lease at 2009 East Carson Street and are in process with our planning. And because we are in a historic zone, we meet the criteria to appear before you tonight. We have submitted a plan focused on our exterior renovations, and we're happy to field questions and comments. I'm going to pass things off to our construction project manager, Brittany, to kind of step you through the presentation, and then happy to discuss.
Hello, everyone. So what we're requesting today is to review the exterior scope of work. So we're at the back of the building. We're installing a garage door at Wright's Way for secure delivery within our space. And then at the front, we are replacing storefront glass and mullions in kind.
Is that all, Brittany? Or you have more to offer?
I have more, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
So here's a full scope of our location at Street View. So in general, on the storefront, the storefront doors themselves are in disrepair. There is some wear and tear on the mullions that are there. So our proposal on the storefront is to replace in kind the glazing, as well as repainting the surface of the mullions. While on site today, we did recognize potential to update the storefront doors from a double door entry to a single door. So just wanted to make you all aware of that, that we did visit that as an option today. And we can present that when we are in place at the Historic Review Commission meeting. But because we caught that today, we do not have that visually depicted in the presentation. So here is what our update would be. We do have branded security film at the entry and the introduction of storefront signage. Our original proposal would include internal lighting on individual, on the box, LED lighting. And then we investigated the option to remove the branding on the privacy film and have it just be an opaque film. And then because it, as it stands, is a variance to include the lighting within the letter set, we did propose an option to have just surface mounted letters with goose lamps for surface lighting. And then as we transition to the back of the space, in this area, we would be presenting a rolling door, metal rolling door, as well as a man entry to the right. So this just shows you the existing conditions of the space. And we would bring it to this here. So we would have the rolling grill and then an additional door. And of course, clean up the space that sits in front of that door.
Sorry, where's the additional, oh, man door, there it is.
Yeah, there you go. And that concludes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I can jump in first if anybody
Feel free, Bob.
minds. Okay. So Brittany and Justin, we looked at this at the LRC meeting on Tuesday night based on the stuff that was posted on the HRC website. So there's a lot of new information here that hasn't been made public until tonight. So on the rear facade, I think we were okay, even though you've added the man door that wasn't in the rendering that you also showed here. So there's a little bit of contradiction, but we weren't overly fussy about the back facade. We understand where you're coming from, why you need the store. I'll talk to the LRC members. I don't think they would object to the new scheme here with the man door. I think on the front of the building is where we'll turn our attention and probably may ask, I'll have to talk to my other LRC members about some of the moves being made here are contrary to the historic district guidelines. Understanding your business may have its own needs. We'll have to walk through that a little bit, but we will likely ask for a 30-day stay on the storefront stuff and have you come back with more information and detail on this since we're all just seeing it for the first time tonight. But with that, it's up to the HRC to grant that. We're just advisory. They don't have to listen to us, so they'll make their own decision on that. But we would prefer the lettering that you've shown here tonight, eliminating this internally illuminated box sign and going for surface applied lettering with the other lighting, the external lighting. And we've always tried to figure this out. I think it's in the zoning code. It's not in the district code. If your legal business name is Beyond Hello, then that's the lettering you're allowed on your signboard. If your legal name includes the medical marijuana dispensary, then that's permitted too. I believe the zoning sign code says it's only the business name in the district that's allowed. So we'll want clarification on that. As far as replacing mullions and worn out parts in kind, that's typically granted okay. I think we would have liked to have seen the details just to ensure, because John Martin, the architect who's on the LRC, did this building, he would kind of know whether or not you're matching things appropriately. But the biggest thing is sort of the addition of the film. Generally, the guidelines want more transparency and openness and visibility into the storefronts, and we have successfully had the HRC overturn unauthorized applications of films and other opaque materials on the storefronts that block views in and out. So maybe you can just talk a little bit about that so we understand where you're coming from. And if there's some other way to compromise to give you some visible privacy, but yet get some openness. You know, do you have to block up all the windows, even on the upper story? can we see above it? We've gone through this with Aldi and a few others where at eyesight or at eye line, up to about 6 feet can be opaque, but we open up the upper transom portion to be transparent. So you block face-to-face, encounter through the glass, but you see the store or some life inside the store. It's not kind of disappearing behind an opaque screen. We fought this battle with numerous clubs up and down the district. So it's a sticking point in the district that we'll have to kind of talk about in a little bit more detail. And then we had lastly had a question about what's going on with the left-hand door. There seems to be something white back in there. I don't know if that's current or something you're changing on the 2 side doors. Is something being modified there? I can't remember your plan from what was presented at the last dam or in previous iterations. So if you can talk to those couple things, be curious to hear.
So Bob, let me, I guess, address some of these points. I work with Britain on the construction side. I guess the sticking points here is the film, as I understand it, right? And the film is mandated by the Board of Pharmacy. It's not something that we would want to have in our facilities either, but the Board of Pharmacy requires us to apply the film to basically provide confidential transactions that are occurring in the space, right? It is functioning as a pharmacy as under medical rules in Pennsylvania, and so we want to make sure that we enforce those guidelines. With the top windows, the windows above, I'm sure we can figure out with legal whether that is permissible, right? We just came from another facility that is right next to Pittsburgh, and they did have some windows at the very top of the building that were allowed to stay non-transparent. But that's something that generally I'd like to consult with our legal and then come back to you on that. As long as you cannot, in other states, and I'm not sure, and here's the reason why I'm saying I need to consult with legal on that. In a lot of states is the film has to be or can be up to 7 feet, as long as it obscures the transactions that are occurring there, right? So again, I don't think that that's going to be an issue, but I wanted to ask you, what is the best way to kind of address that? What is the best way for us to, is it for us to have that answer for the historical meeting, or to send you an email with that information, basically removing that point?
With the short time frame, we would certainly entertain an email exchange for our group, which again is advisory to HRC. You're not required to listen to us, but we will make the case. So there's a couple ways it's been handled in the district for similar retail entities that wanted to either have extra wall space at the storefront or obscure transactions, like you're saying. The Rite Aid has been through this, and the Salvation Army also had issues with not wanting to open up their storefronts as broadly as we would like. So 2 options there is sort of take the film off the glass and put something back in the storefront that acts as a display that blocks your views, but gives us some type of retail, some type of,
oh, that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, some type of action or life on the street. Yeah. So it's just not a dead space kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
that is not a problem. We can certainly render it and send it to you via email, so you can take a look at it and tell us whether you like the designs.
Yeah, and you have, as of right, can do anything you want behind the glass. We'd like you to work with us, and that wouldn't trigger a stay on Wednesday's hearing. They would ask you just to come back with more details about what you might do to change this aspect of the design. So you could move forward with the kind of more time sensitive or long lead items, changes to the storefront to do the in-kind repairs, and kind of keep your process moving, and then come back later with details on the storefront glass and or what you want to do inside. So we can work around it that way. But if you can give us something that we can write up and have ready for Wednesday,
I'm sure we can. So let's say by Tuesday night we can try to send you, or Wednesday morning we can send you a rendering with some aesthetically pleasing design. that
I
will.
usually, go ahead. I was
Go
going
ahead.
to say, I have to write these up on Monday because they want them in Tuesday morning, 24 hours ahead of the hearing, I think, or there is a cutoff I have on Tuesday.
Okay.
So, Monday would be great.
Can
Bob,
you give us Monday end of day? Is
Yeah,
that possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob, which meeting are you talking about for Wednesday?
Are they going to the hearing March 3rd?
We are.
HRC hearing March 3rd. That's what I'm talking about, I guess. My head of the
I don't know
dam.
how that is because we have the 30 days with the dam.
Well, that's a great question. They're on the agenda.
I believe, yeah, Cliff is working with us on Denton side. Cliff, do you mind jumping in?
Yeah, so Cliff Levine here, if you can hear me. Yeah, there were some questions because we had originally gone before One Stop and it was processed. And then there were questions where there were delays with PLI. And then as a result, we got on the agenda for the 3rd. And it really related to the fact that our application proceeded One Stop. We had gotten zoning approval. And then there were some delays at the city end as well. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, I think the issue here is just the new information being presented in such a short time frame before the hearing. We had kind of seen the backside and the garage concept. So I think we had enough time as a community to react to that. We had some indications of some things on the front, but not very much. I think we just saw signage come on the HRC agenda posting. So that came in time for us to react to, but a lot of other stuff here being shown tonight is, I don't think is really disruptive. It's from the LRC's point of view, I've kind of stated what we would like to see and try and fix by Wednesday. I'll let the other community members discuss whether or not they're seeing stuff here in too short an order to give their 30-day notification to HRC if Anthony's going to have trouble getting his notes to HRC for Wednesday on some of this.
One of the challenges we can, this is Cliff Levine again,
Yeah.
and we truly appreciate your concerns. One of there's a provision 116131 of the regulations says a dispensary, there shall be coverage of all facility entrances and exits, rooms with exterior windows, exterior walls, roof hatches or skylight, storage rooms, including those that contain medical marijuana, and safes, and the perimeter of the facility. So it's pretty onerous requirements that the state imposes through the marijuana regulations.
Okay, if you can send that to us and or HRC and they have that in front of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cliff, I guess let's assemble a package, right?
Yes.
With the regulations, as well as, I'm sure by the end of the day on Monday, we should be able to provide some mock-up with something that looks, will basically act as a security film or as a privacy film and a security film with some aesthetics added to it. So Bob and the rest of the team that we're speaking to today can take a look at it and basically say, you know what, our concerns have been addressed. It is going to be an aesthetically pleasing storefront.
And Bob, can I just ask a clarification? Because this is your like, you know what's going on here. I really don't. I'm asking just for clarification, more for myself, but also maybe for them. Are you saying that if they put in essentially like a 3-foot storefront box that had drywall in the rear and took the glazing off, and that was an opportunity for signage or some other retail activity, similar to like what a mannequin would have been in the old style storefronts, that would alleviate the need for historic review of that element?
To a point. So the guidelines say that storefronts should be as transparent as possible and open. And I'm just saying that, so yes, technically the guidelines concern, the purview of the HRC is only exterior alterations. So if you're behind the glass, they see that as interior. Now, I'm understanding there's other zoning issues with signage per se that come into play there, but that's not what we're talking about. And all we've said from kind of a community perspective and kind of making Carson Street, a vibrant commercial district, there are lots of businesses like the drugstores and others who've wanted to cover up their entire windows, Aldi, supermarket, others, with some type of applied graphic or vinyl that doesn't let you see into the store. It's just a barrier, even though it's active. And we've worked around that or worked with those retailers to give some amount of transparency. Now, you have special rules that I think are valid to the HRC point of view, that they're kind of overriding the zoning in the district guidelines by state law. So I think that will help you. But if you can work with us in any way to find an alternative, if that says a film applied to the windows, then it's pretty definitive. We don't have anything else to talk about in your particular business. But if there was a way to create this kind of mannequin space or display space that keeps the glass transparent and gives something of your business available for view to the street and activate your storefront, rather than turn your back to the street and become an opaque kind of out of sight entity, which I understand the safety reasons for that. It's just better for the street and for the vibrancy of the district. So again, if your rules say that's what we have to do, HRC will make that call. But if you can work with us to kind of make your storefront active in some way, that would be great.
And maybe I'm a little bit too granular here, but to Matt's point, if we have literally drywall behind the windows on the right-hand side and the left-hand side with some graphic, the glass would be transparent, but there's drywall with graphic behind them, and the entrance has some sort of privacy film applied to it. Would that be okay? Would do you think that is better than what we're presenting here right now?
Well, I'm one member of the LRC. I don't know if Jody's on the call if he wants to speak to this. It's an option, and it's a way to make it a little less back roomish, because a lot of the clubs want to do this. They want the same privacy and exclusivity and protection of views in and out. And so we'd lose a lot of storefronts behind opaque and or translucent, vision barriers. And that's not the nature of the district guidelines. It's not the spirit and or some of the written text. So all we're trying is work together. If we can get that, fine. But if your rules and laws and state law overrides this, it is what it is.
Yep.
And without seeing it, and this is the problem, because you're coming to us so fast, a lot of us haven't seen all this. It's hard for us to react as a group at the LRC side and give you a coherent message, working it out in advance of HRC. If you were here with us a month ago and had all this information at the last dam, or had been to us earlier on Tuesday and had this all posted up on the website where the public could see it, we could address all these probably in some manner and give us a little bit of time. So we're kind of back up against the wall on a few things, as you are with your state law. So it's a new entity. We're struggling with it.
Okay. We
thought the problem was you're going to be selling marijuana, right?
No. We actually thought that the real issue here, I'm taken aback a little bit. I thought the real issue is the fact that we're going to be installing the gate at the back of the building, right? But truly, that building is in a state of disrepair, so we're actually going to be repairing it, right, and enhancing it significantly. I'll be very honest with you, taken aback a little bit by what the concerns are with the storefront. But we're going to address that. We're going to put together a package for you to show you what the state law is, and we're going to put together a couple of more renderings to let you choose between different options. Again, I would say the emphasis here should be on the state law, right? Not the fact that we want to just block the view because there's a club inside, or there's a store like Walgreens that really wants to have branding displayed to people that are passing by. we really are just trying to play by rules and regulations that are being enforced by the state of Pennsylvania. And
Yeah,
so
I appreciate that.
that's what the focus should be on our end when we're putting this package together. You also mentioned a couple of things on the sign. So help me understand what the concerns are there. Outside of Beyond Hello, the medical marijuana dispensary being the legal name, I get that. If we're going to go back and check whether the medical marijuana dispensary has been registered, but let's say it has not been registered and we just have Beyond Hello as a name, but we have an option of registering Beyond Hello, the medical marijuana dispensary over the next couple of days. Would that be a problem then?
Not for us per se. Again, we're just looking for uniformity because a lot of people come to us with all these exceptions, and all we try to do is go by the guidelines. So that's my understanding. So the district guidelines, which the LRC and the HRC are concerned about, not other zoning rules. That's another department, and city planning will get into that with you if they wish. The guidelines don't say what you can put on the sign. They just want applied letters and exterior illumination. And no bigger than 18 inches high. So if your drawing could show that these letters are no more than 18 inches high, HRC will be good, LRC will be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want the workaround, you want to incorporate that stuff and register, it's up to the HRC if they want to let that go. I don't think LRC has a big problem. We just wanted to alert you to what we understand the zoning code to say.
Definitely. And by the way, the sign right now, the illuminated sign is about 22.5 inches tall. And the letters on that sign are 7 inches and 7.5 and then 2.5 inches tall. So
yeah,
it still meets, it meets the guidelines as you can see on this page.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. But that shows the box sign, which we kind of poo-poo. We prefer your other way, which is more closely aligned with the district guidelines.
Got it.
So again, your presentation and the stuff posted now going to HRC as a group, a community group, we don't understand what you're presenting because you've got multiple parts and pieces. So we'll go with your testimony tonight and I'll write up my notes based on what you've told us you're going to do and what we talked about.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the more inconsistencies and contradictions in your documents that you send to HRC or present on Wednesday, it just muddies everything up because they'll have to prove a set of documents and we would like them to be representative.
Yep. And Bob, we really appreciate this being a dialogue, right? We want to present something that is non-controversial, right? And people look at it on Wednesday and say, this looks like this is exactly what we want, right?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate this back and forth. It really helps us figure it out.
Yeah, likewise. And I wanted to say, I was coming tonight basically to say we were cool with everything, the back door garage rendering and this little sign on the front. And I would have said, hey, we're all cool, go. But now there's all this other stuff that I just have to react to on behalf of the group and for HRC coming up that I have to write. So that's all. That's why the hiccup tonight, because it's just all new to us.
Okay.
Yeah. But we appreciate your working with us.
And likewise,
Bob?
thank you, Bob.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned my hair's doing something. I gotta push it down. Sorry. Previous DAM meeting, did you mean like previous LRC meeting? Just
no, I thought this has been floating around for a month or so. I've seen other drawings packages circulated. I thought there was
I think that meeting was like a year or more ago. You might. That's the first time you came to see us.
Right. It was a year ago. It was more than a year ago.
Yeah, and you have to go to the state to get some type of variance because you're too close to Phillips Elementary, correct?
That was actually the use. They needed an exception for the use because this marijuana dispensary is not a of right use in the LNC. So that's when they originally came to us. And the packaging at that time was much, it was more white instead of black, and the interior had more like neon. This is much more monochromatic. But you're right. There have been a number of things very similar to this that have been circulated over the past 12 months.
Yeah, I want to say this. I didn't just see it last week when they posted on HRC. Something's been floated. a few weeks.
Barbara,
before
you're
that.
muted.
Can you hear me now?
I could.
No, I said Barbara. Barbara's
Oh,
muted.
sorry.
We had, we're talking specifically about the dam meeting and what we had, we were talking to Art and I was talking with Art, Bob, Anthony, because of the 30 days that we were talking about. And the plan was to have the dam at this time, but there was concern about could they go to HRC with when they weren't meeting the 30-day requirement of the development activities meetings. So I think the fact that they're on for March in a sense answers that, but you know, I think the plan to have this meeting was always for this February.
Okay.
But there were a lot of emails being passed around. But I had a question on the back side of the, you know, on Wright's Way. It will certainly, it's certainly going to look much, much better than it does now. So if you go back to the old, what it looks like now, which is hard to look at, what is permitted and what has to be done to the building to have it look as nice as it will? I'm assuming that it's going to need to be painted, correct?
Yeah, it'll be a combination of cleaning, toning, as well as tuck pointing of the brick to bring it to a like new condition, like repair and maintenance on the surface as it is now.
And that's in whatever, are there issues around the guidelines related to that, Bob?
Again, it's just, you know, the more information, the better, and to have a set of documents that clearly explains what you're doing. Yes, in the sense that it's better if we saw this all up front sooner so we could discuss it at the LRC level and give recommendations that are based on, you know, documents that are current and, you know, explain all the way work. You know, I don't go back to your exterior elevation. I don't think there's any mention of repointing and or painting and or stuff. Now the backside is painted, and when masonry has been painted, the HRC will allow you to paint it again. So they won't make you strip that off. We were going to ask as LRC to get the graffiti off the front of the building, which I assume you're going to do. Yeah, again, the documents you take to HRC, the more information and clearly showing on drawings or photographs in words what you're going to do is better than just a simple picture, because we don't know the full scope of what you're doing. So any of that you can fill in the details, the better.
Because would I be correct that the commissioners will be asking questions about what process is going to occur to make the building look as it does in the drawings? Would I be correct? I've attended enough of those meetings. They get extremely detailed. So I'm thinking that that's probably going to be, they're going to be asking what you're going to do specifically to make it look better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really our scope is really just to improve the aesthetics, more of a maintenance to bring it up, but we can definitely detail that scope of work. As you can see, you know, there's been some repairs over the years, but aesthetically they're not pleasing. So we can definitely come up with an outline for you on that, okay?
I'd like to ask a question about the back. When we met before, we were concerned about the usual, you know, parking for your staff and where that was going to occur, and also trash. We talked about you guys providing a spot in we're calling it a Sally Port. I don't know if you guys do, but in the back door there for trash and recycling. Has that been accommodated in your current plan? We're not looking at dumpsters appearing behind your building because that's not been planned for in your current layout?
That's correct. So we did previously commit and still do commit, because the garage space for delivery that we're creating is large enough to accommodate the dumpsters. We will keep trash on the interior of the space until such time as it's the day to go out for trash pickup.
Great, appreciate that. And then the back of the building, is there any way we could get you to remove that chain link fence around the utilities? Again, try to make it freshen this up. You know, the curb line is gone, reestablishing the curb line. The plantings, as much as I'm a green thumb guy, I just don't think it's a great place for them. I think they're just going to attract dogs and dirt and debris and not do as well as, you know, they look in your rendering. And I'm wondering if we should just settle for a concrete, you know, apron there along your building and a new curb line that just sort of cleans up the edge of the road from one end of your building to the other. I see the plantings just being abused by the lane activity and local bad dog owners.
Mike, I appreciate that. I think we're going to have to be able to pull into the garage, right? So the plantings in the way of the garage are definitely going to have to go. And I think it's reasonable to assume that it would be better, more aesthetically pleasing to eliminate the rest of them as well and cover them up with concrete. So it's not attracting dirt, as you said.
Yeah.
But that brings me to another point that I wanted to very briefly touch on. It is the curb line here is non-existent, right? There is none.
Right.
Would we have to apply for some sort of zoning approval from you guys or someone else to
a curb cut?
Yeah. And is that something that we're also going to need to talk about at the meeting on Wednesday?
Normally, DOMI has to approve it. First, you have to apply for it with surveys and describe it. They have to authorize it. And then I don't know if we are zoning. Anthony, you can talk to this. I don't think that's part of us. I think just the adding of a Sally port is the question that we're being asked to respond to, I believe.
So if that's the case, then we'll proceed with the curb cut approval separately from the approval of everything else.
Yeah, correct.
And it's not needed. It's not needed for Wednesday. HRC doesn't get into curb cuts and sidewalks.
Understood. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I understand.
If I could just get a little bit of feedback on the chain link fence, and obviously it's not aesthetically pleasing. If we came up with, say, for instance, a wood slat or PVC slat fence that would match the brick, would that be acceptable?
Yeah, if you pulled it in tighter to it, my concern is that when you walk down these alleys, you can't step off. Your fence comes right out. It blocks people from just sort of walking along the curb line and having a car go by. If you could narrow it up so it's just as thick as utilities to cover them, which is what I think you're trying to do, right? Protect them and hide them. I would be okay with that myself. I can't speak for everybody else. Bob, maybe you could mention, I don't know, your thoughts on that?
Again, a picture's worth 1,000 words, so it sounds all right, much better than chain link. But again, HRC will want to see a picture and a note that explains what that is, so that when they make a motion to approve your documents, it's very clear to everybody what you're supposed to do. So yeah, I'm all for it. I don't think that's controversial. Guidelines don't particularly say that. I think they say something about hiding utilities and things and putting vision screens more for the rooftop stuff, but I think that could apply here. So again, yes, it's a better move. They'd love to see, they will ask to see a photo or a picture of what you want to do, an illustration. And if you're not ready for Wednesday, they'll give you a condition, kind of give you an approval on what you have presented and what they'll approve, and may ask you to come back with the fencing details or a plan for that fencing. So you can always kind of defer to another month to follow up on these kind of miscellaneous things that you just need a little bit more time to work out.
There is a question. Do you plan to pull the trucks into the back of the building through the rolling door? There's parking on the other side of Wright's Way. And this attendee was curious as to how a truck will be able to pull in if there will be a problem because of the parking.
It would be, the doors would be wide enough for the truck to be able to pull in into the door.
I think we talked about this before, sorry, Art, and maybe you can clarify, but
No.
we're not talking about box trucks. We're talking about small, like Ram vans and stuff like that, right?
Correct.
All right, so the turning radius is a lot smaller.
It's a van. It's a van.
Okay.
Thank you.
And majority of these vehicles are not even vans. It's just that we want to have opening large enough to accommodate a standard van.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Art, again, this is not something I think for this upcoming Tuesday, and this may be something Anthony can help with, but I don't know. I mean, I think this is within the rear setback of the building. Obviously, you're not building the building. It's already there. But Anthony, would this be like an expanded non-conforming use by adding a garage and another man door inside the rear setback? If so, will they need a variance? Can you expand on that maybe? Or I don't know. I mean, it seems like they're not there with zoning, but I mean, that's the one thing I see back here.
Yeah.
That I don't know if we're going to have to review that in the future.
We struggle with these things. This is exactly one of these issues where, and Matt and I've talked about it. Technically, you would need it, but we understand that you don't because it's there already. But does one cancel the other? Go ahead, Anthony.
I'm not sure, but I can't remember, Art, or the project in general. Was there do you recall a pre-app application meeting with this project? It's not mandatory, but it helps to resolve all those questions beforehand. Because I'm not on the zoning division of the planning department, and it gets pretty technical. But sometimes
Are
those
you
pre-app
asking whether
meetings.
are you asking whether the garage suddenly creates a non-conforming use expansion? Is that what I'm not sure what the
Yeah,
question was.
Cliff, the building is already built in the rear setback. In this district, you need a variance to build the building on the rear setback where it is. Because you're doing work by adding a garage and a man door inside the rear setback, there's a zoning question on whether or not that's an expansion of a non-conforming use. I don't know. I'd have to go to zoning to get the answer. But
Yeah, well,
Right.
I've done a number of those. It wouldn't be because you're not extending. If you were to extend it out, if you were to extend, 3 feet out or add in a back addition, that would be an expansion. But if you're simply modifying the existing structure, that would not be, because you're not changing the dimension. It's a dimensional variance. You're not changing the dimensions.
Well, it's kind of a way. It's a use change as well. We see it as, right? And yeah, so that's something that maybe Anthony and we can talk to those people about, because it's come up more than once, and we would definitely like to know how they view
If it's triggered, yeah.
Okay. We're not trying to trip you up, Cliff, on that. We're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the use is the use is like dispensary in this case.
Yeah.
So that's permitted by special exception.
Yeah, and HRC doesn't care from a zoning point of view. They just want to see what the door looks like. So that won't trip you up on Wednesday. This kind of technical zoning thing.
Okay.
We'd like to have that all worked out ahead of time, but things are kind of mixed up a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you for humoring us.
So does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Were you thinking of repainting the metal work on the storefront? That was a question at LRC as well.
No.
So it'll stay black as is.
It will stay black, yeah.
Okay. We were hoping for a nice dark green or something other than black, but
If you tell us that that's going to help us address all the other concerns, we're happy to do that.
I like your style. That's good. Yeah. No, those kinds of things do help, but it's not essential. Again, it's just part of a whole package. If we had time to talk, we'd talk about that. But it was just one of the members mentioned has never liked it painted black, so we always like a little color. So.
Well,
And for a dispensary, we thought a nice dark green for a dispensary would be appropriate.
We'll definitely take a look at that with the renderings. Once again, we really want to bring up the aesthetic. So
Yeah. I mean, there's a kind of, it was a very storied nightclub for a while that was very problematic for the neighborhood. So it has this kind of demonic presence or memory. So to kind of want, you kind of want to distance yourself as a business from the prior businesses.
Understood.
Thank you all.
Yeah, so if there are no more questions or comments, you may want to, if you have anything additional, you should probably get them to me over the weekend to the Southside Community Council at info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org. And again, the presentation will be this coming Wednesday at 1 p.m. And, you know, there is opportunity to watch on YouTube or to watch via, I think it's via Zoom, and you can make comment and also provide comment in writing. So I think we just did that, Phil. And again, so for those of you that are here for the first time, projects, you know, we're working on our website to make sure that, you know, we're up to date on the projects that we've discussed at our dams. And this particular recording will be on the Southside Community Council's YouTube page. And again, we also, you know, we put information into our monthly newsletters, and our next dam will be March 25th. And currently we have one presentation, and that will be the apartments at Southside Works. And it's possible that we'll have one or two more presentations. So again, thanks to all of you, thanks to the presenters, and thanks to everyone who's been in attendance, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Thanks, Barbara. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.